We're good?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna call this meeting of the Student Senate to order at 4:02 p.m. And we're gonna start out with revisions to the agenda. Are there any revisions anyone wanting to propose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Propose one. Oh, not to the agenda, sorry.
Oh, not minutes. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna make a note that, the first agenda that was posted at 4 was slightly different from the one that's now on the website. So we're just gonna note that, but it has been updated. We'll move on to the consent items, and we'll start out with the finance council charter. Can you pull up doc one, Emily? Okay, so this document has been approved by the finance council. It's the changes that they had promised us at the end of fall quarter, but you know, everything takes longer to expect, so, this is what we've gone to. There are a few like changes to the charter, like in terms of what it says. But a lot of it is actually just like aligning the charter with like the reality of how finance has been working in the AS and like regulatory and like legal requirements from the university in terms of sort of like you'll see in a lot of places, approval from the fund financial manager has been added. We're not like giving away power by doing that because we already had to have that. It just wasn't written down. The membership stayed the same. We changed the voting to make sure that you need at least 4 so that people can't like convene the finance council and vote things in with like 2 people or 3 people. And then yeah, there's a few like changes to like what requires approval. I think it's the same, it's the $50,000, anything that's above $50,000 still requires the consent of the Senate exec. But anything that's smaller, that's grant funding will be good. And then we also added in the dissolution part, we increased the requirement for the dissolution to 2/3 majority vote of both the exec board and student senate. And then we added the sort of consent of the new leadership group that's forming that's gonna consist of the like student directors. It's for like for sort of the internal operations of the AS. And then added the approval of the fund financial manager because again, that's sort of their legal responsibility. Are there any questions on this charter?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I have a question. So about the time sensitive funding in the form section.
Yeah.
So that seems, because it changes from like up to 50,000.
Yeah.
To the annual. My reading that?
Yeah, I think you're reading that correctly. Let me see. There's. I mean, yeah, I think that potentially conflicts with sort of the first bullet point in the chart that says AS grants over 50,000.
Yeah.
Require AS board students and financial manager approval. My understanding is that that's still in place for that. But I mean, we could like amend what we're passing.
Yeah, I think it might just be an error, because I don't think the up to $50,000 is supposed to be crossed out, because they already crossed out up to $90,999.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that specifically taking that out of the forum section was an error. I think that was intentional.
Yeah.
I don't think they mistakenly took that part out of the forum. But I don't know if that is supposed to have like an actual material impact. Yeah.
Okay.
Any thoughts about that in particular?
No. If it doesn't have material impact, that's.
Yeah, I mean, but my understanding is that it doesn't. And we could sort of, I can communicate that to the like business director and the like finance council, but that's sort of our understanding.
Yeah, Yeah.
All right, any other questions on the charter? Oh, there's your hand, James. No? Okay. Okay, we're good. Now we'll move on. Appointing Matt to the election advisory committee. This is doc two. There's sort of some notes. Basically, Matt has wanted to be on the ESC since being a fall quarter and is already in communication with the chair of that committee. Yeah. The appointment of Ellen to the Graduate Faculty Governance Council. This is a council that hasn't had any students on it for the whole year. And usually the graduate senators that sit on the council, so that's the sort of routine thing. The last one is the appointment of me as chair of the student advisory committee. I'm open to like talking about this at another meeting, but sort of the thought is, my understanding is there's not a whole lot of capacity for like any of the senators to take on it like chairship. And like it kind of needs to get started this year if it's gonna happen. And I know I have a little bit of time in my schedule this quarter from what I can tell so far. And this is just because Quincy resigned, so that's now a vacancy. But I'm open to like sort of opening it up to other people if they're interested in doing that. I would just be worried about how quickly we can get the like SAC to actually like start doing things. Any thoughts from people about that?
I think that in my experience, it takes a lot of hours to be a chair, so I think you're probably the best suited to be able to do that.
Okay. All right. Then we'll go to the approval of the minutes. Which I guess Nelly will have to go all the way back up. Are there any like edits you wanted to make to the minutes? Yeah, Devin, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, so I remember off the top of my head. So in the section where we have our reviews, or not our reviews, our updates.
Yeah.
For Senate, it says that I started the Discovery of Entrepreneurship Club. I didn't start that. That's not, I just helped it get approved through our channels. I don't want to take credit for that. I didn't do any of the work for that.
We'll put the sentence where I know helped launch the ASWWU Entrepreneurship Club at his college. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you edit it?
I would just say that I mentioned the Discovery of Entrepreneurship Club got approved.
Did you catch that, Nelly, or do you want him to send it in like text form to you?
Yeah, I'll also send it.
Yes, just get send that on a message to Nelly or email. Just the verbatim, and then we'll add that. Any other edits to the minutes from last meeting? No, okay. Then I would welcome a motion to approve the consent items with the amendments that we've stated.
I move the motion.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion of the motion? No, all right, then all those in favor of approving the consent items with the stated amendments, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Are there any abstentions? Okay, no abstentions, so that passes 9-0-0. Next, move on to public forum. I'm gonna leave this open for like 15 seconds. Is there anyone online? I'm gonna take that as a resounding no. All right, then I will now close public forum. and move on to information items guests. And we'll start with the Student Union Advisory Group Committee presentation that Leon is going to walk us through. Unfortunately, Greg McBride was unable to present it himself today.
Yeah, just for some context and background for everyone, Greg McBride inherited the responsibility of running this committee in the absence of Eric Alexander, the former VP of the Viking Union. So he's not really super used to running committees and has just been really kind of struggling to find student representatives for it. So he asked for support from other staff. And so I told him he could come present to y'all. Unfortunately, last minute couldn't make it. So I'm just gonna show you the presentation that he put together. And then you can consider joining it or telling your friends. So the Student Union Advisory Group, or SWWU, is a committee, it's an AS committee, and the goal of it is to provide, I'm just gonna read it, y'all, because I'm not Greg, right? So the goal is to provide advisement to the Viking Union leadership in the management of the Viking Union building. Hello, welcome in. In the management of the Viking Union building and Lakewood Water Sports Facility. The SWWU includes students and staff to give a broad range of perspectives from our university committee. Okay, so things like changes to the way that these buildings are managed in terms of physical facilities. He's the facilities manager, so buildings and structure and pipes and that kind of stuff. What does SWWU do in each meeting? The SWWU team will have a couple of orientation meetings at the beginning and then review the 2024-25 budget, the recommendations, capital and non-operating priorities, and review other components of our operation. Okay. So here's some information about this committee. There is not much prep needed for serving on this committee or attending committee meetings. So just think about what you would want from the facilities and show up and tell them your opinion, basically. The kind of work you'll do is reviewing and providing feedback on presentations of budget and strategic priorities. There may be subcommittees of SWWU that may take more time if members want to engage in some topics more deeply, like facility planning, vendors row, etc. And then just for context, for folks that just came in late, hi. This is a committee that they're trying to get members for, and they're looking for 2 at-large seats. And so I offered the person in charge of this committee to come in and present about it. He couldn't come last minute, so I'm talking about it. Okay, so that's what's happening right now. Okay, so this is just really the nuts and bolts information that you will need, which is the committee meeting times. It's only 2 to 3 times per quarter. The weekly workload would maybe be an hour per week, if that. So this is a pretty low stakes committee. It's a pretty low workload committee. And if you're interested, Greg has asked that you email him. So I know a lot of y'all already have a full load, right? But if you're someone who is maybe on only 1 or 2 committees and you're looking for a little tiny bit more work to do, I think this would be a good fit because they're only gonna meet 6 more times for the entire year. It maybe be an hour a week. So yeah, something to consider if you wanna take a picture of his email or shoot him an email right now, feel free to do that. I don't know, does anyone have any questions? Are you supposed to ask a question?
Am I supposed to ask the question?
Yeah,
What? Oh.
does anyone have any questions about this? I can answer to the best of my ability. If anyone does. Yeah.
Yeah, what's the modality of these meetings?
The modality, are they in person or virtual? That's a great question. I don't know. My assumption would be in person or hybrid.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions about?
So you're looking for an at-large, just any general person who's available for this?
Yeah, exactly. And something Gabe has talked about a lot is at large, any student at Western could technically serve on this committee, but if we do it, I mean, by we, I mean y'all will get paid for it, so, right, yeah.
No, yeah, that doesn't mean just at-large senators, that means at large, means
Oh.
the students at large.
Yeah,
Which is, I don't know the etymology of that word, but.
yeah, in this case, the term at large, yeah, refers to students. Cool. Any other questions about ASWWU?
You know,
All right, cool, thanks, thanks for
Yeah.
listening.
I would encourage all of you to, like, if you're meeting with constituents that are like interested in getting more involved, this is could be a good opportunity. The VU is kind of like, I think they report themselves as the like center of student life, and it like is if you kind of compare the size of the waiting lines at the bus stops. Or maybe it's a convenient bus stop, I don't know. All right, then I will move on to action items, guests, and if we don't have any, well, I'll move on to information items, Senate, and I will pass it on to Lily and Lauren to talk about the outreach task force.
It'll just be me. Now, do you have access to the presentation? Did you send it? See, I asked MJ to do it, so I'm not sure what happened, where it went, but I can send it to you right now. Like, it's, because I was looking I thought that he had put it in the little folder thing, but I'm not sure if he did. There's a little bit. Okay, well, I sent it to you.
It's under my name.
Or yeah, Miguel sent it to you.
Can you send it to, or can you put it in the chat?
Yeah, this is, you want to chat it to me?
Yeah.
This is, you want to chat it to me?
Okay, sorry, guys. Can you put it in? I don't know what happened. Miscommunication, I guess. I didn't even know you could go out there. I always saw you.
What? Do you know how to? Yeah. Okay. It's a little tricky. They make it like really hard to find the give access button. It's very unintuitive.
Morning, guys. I'll be cooking for you, so. Long to take a little bit. Oh, yeah. No, but the visuals, I need my visuals. Wait, do you have the presentation?
Yeah.
Hold it up. Okay. You can do this a slightly different way, that'll be a little better. If you just kind of. Like, you want to go like this, and then this, and then here's the next thing, you have to go here. And then like, yeah, oh, I don't know if you can get back to that.
MJ. It's locked in.
That's super good. So it's reasonable every day.
So, okay, so we can just do it verbally.
Well, if, we can also table it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried. You just said currently voting the meeting document. Yeah. I think.
We can move on and then come back to it.
Yeah, let's,
Okay, yeah, let's come back to it.
yeah, we'll circle back to that. James, you have the Senate Library Committee micro survey. I don't know if you wanted to send the link to that in the like meeting chat or.
Well, it's in the meeting documents.
Okay.
Files, yeah. So I think we can take the next 10 minutes to do the survey.
Yeah, we can do that now. Okay, we'll take that one, but.
It probably won't. So the Senate Library Committee is seeking input to help inform where we're going to put our resources for this year. Students and staff will answer the survey. And the committee has decided not to send this to at-large students. Rather, you guys will be representatives for each college, will be representing students at large. So, yeah, so this survey helps determine the focus of our resources towards the services that you're going to be answering. And your answers are important because we're not surveying students that much. So yeah, the link is in document 4. It's at the top. You can scroll.
Any other question?
Question. What was the rationale behind the decision not to survey at-large students?
Oh, so there's a couple reasons. So if we're gonna send the survey out to students at large, then in what way are they gonna receive that? It'll be either in Western Today or it'll be a mass email, and that gets lost easily. The students that are gonna be answering that survey are more likely to be, I guess, more responsible is one way to put it, but it'll skew the results. So I think it's better to have the student senate be representatives.
Are we not just doing the results by pulling us the?
There's gonna be some speech. And this is the decision committee's made.
Yeah, I'll ask then, are we, when we're answering questions, we're answering as ourselves or like as our constituents?
As yourselves.
You want me to do the survey or Douglas numbers? Because it said students and staff.
You start, I think, yeah.
Okay.
Is the document isn't updating, so I put the link in this document,
Yeah.
along with the
Oh, yeah.
QR code.
I think, yeah, you'll have to go into the team to access it.
I don't know if they're open for input, but I don't know if this was the best way of going through with it, just because I think that my answers to this definitely does not reflect the college or the environment. And I almost feel bad kind of putting in my information.
I agree with that. I think, yeah, this was not a very smart way of going about it.
Okay.
Can we propose a different methodology? I mean, considering we all have access to all of our deans, and and all the colleges here, we can just simply ask our deans to share and distribute, so that way they can distribute within classes. I don't think it'd be too difficult to ask. Depending, is there like a deadline that you need these answers by, or? Wow.
But they'll listen to the students here. If, I'm gonna bring this feedback to them. 26th is a soft deadline, so
Okay.
I'll talk to them about it.
Yeah, Dennis.
I think making sure that they get the right approval too, because I know it's my college, we've had some issues surveying our students, so I know that is a process on the administrative side and for them to get through, but I think it is worth it. You're gonna
Approval for what?
for administering a survey to students at large. There's like approval that they need to get from the university administration. But I think in this case, it's definitely worth the work and the approval.
Yeah, Millie.
Just a quick question. Did you say, the survey was linked where it says faculty, senate, library committee, or is it linked?
So if you access the meeting documents folder, where you put the documents you're trying to add to the agenda. The version of doc 4 in there has the link at the top of that document.
Yeah, it's meetings.
It's. Oh, cool. Oh, you should.
Yeah, I would say one thing that I might propose instead is having a senator from each college go to 3 different classes and asking for for survey responses from those 3 different classes. I think that,
Do you think that'll be done for the survey? Cause I
going to classes and having,
remember of each college to go to 3 classes for this.
I meant with Senate, yeah.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
Are you suggesting the current classes?
Just classes within our colleges. I mean, it's like doing class visits where
I feel like given the time constraint, I don't know if that's like super doable.
I feel like, yeah, one thing you could also mention to them is that we only had, like 11 people present for today's meeting out of the 17. So, yeah, and also like, y'all, it's like, this is a project that James is working on with the committee that he's on, like, I feel like we can kind of move on from the feedback about the survey, maybe just take it, and then James is gonna go and communicate with them the feedback, and then that's their thing, you know what I mean?
So the feedback is from Melly that the answer does not reflect college and the environment, and that's an important consideration for you, because you want to, the purpose of surveying the representatives is that you are representative of your college. Devin said it's not a smart way of going about it, and it would be better to, you said it was better to ask deans to distribute the survey to their colleges and to their students. And Devin also said that I should make sure to have, if there's right approval for sending the mass email. Is that right?
not the mass email, I think getting classes, getting in classrooms, and administering it that way. So I do agree with the rationale that the committee made, was that the mass email does tend to get lost and it can skew the results. Doing it by classrooms can kind of avoid the skewing.
And Leona said that there's only 11 people present, so it's not representative, if that's our sample size.
Just like 1 more minute to finish filling out the survey. And then, I don't know, if the outreach task force presentation is not figured out, or if we're still waiting on tech for that. The question for you, Leah.
Oh, hi, yep, my bad, let me see. I'll check on my laptop before we like throw it up. Would it be sent from Miguel?
No, it should be in the folder now.
Oh, word, okay, that's,
Yeah,
you got it.
I don't know what happened. Where was it in the folder?
But it's in the folder now. Hey,
Yay.
I also restructured the teams.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe that's what we're.
you know what, I'll take the blame for that. Sure.
I'm just kidding.
Is that one? Is the top one?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Am I good? Am I
Yeah.
good to go? Okay.
Good.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a little visual. Anyways, okay. Hi, guys. So I'm Lily. I think you know that. I'm here to do a little presentation about the outreach task force. And so, next slide. Okay, so recently, we lost a little bit of leadership with the outreach task force. And so me and MJ thought it would be a good idea to come back to the Senate and do like a little presentation of our revisioning of how we think outreach task force could go instead. And so, yeah, so hopefully by the end of this presentation, I'll convince you to maybe join the outreach task force. Next slide. Okay, this is the current state of outreach task force. Our meetings have been a little either inconsistent or a little disorganized. And so we're not really working as a team and not much is getting done as a result of that. And so we're kind of hoping to have the outreach task force kind of, yeah, be more like restructured. And yeah, I have some notes. I remember what I was saying. Okay. So, yeah, okay, so we feel like it is time to restructure, and so, outreach is really important, and I think it's something that all of us should kind of be working on. And so if you go on the next slide. Me and MJ, and Mariana, we conducted a very unspecific scientific poll. And we asked our personal Instagram followers if they even know who Student Senate is. And so, and these were the results that we got. And kind of just by looking at this, like I would say a good percentage of our personal followers maybe might have heard about Student Senate, but have not, like, don't really know what we do. And so outreach is like the way that we believe we're going to like hopefully get more students to like see who we are, know who we are, because if they don't know who we are, then how are we going to support them? And so, yeah. Next slide. Oh, good, go back. Oh, okay. Okay, sorry, I wasn't ready yet. And so instead of, you know, I guess things happening, we were thinking of maybe, what if we had a little quest board? Yeah. So instead of, you know, senators just, you know, doing their whole thing, we have like work meetings, maybe it could be more of like a quest board where senators can put up a request of like assistance needing to do like an outreach task. And then you could, you know, pick it up as you would like. So for example, say I need help tabling in Red Square. Maybe I can, you know, put it on this little quest board, and then some other senators like, hey, I'm kind of interested in that. And then they can pick up that quest. So that way, like everyone is doing what they can. It's very low commitment. Next slide. So like with this idea in mind, this is like a good opportunity for senators to get extra hours and also have like and have it be like very low commitment. So it's like when you can, when you want, type of deal. Next slide. So think of it, yeah, as like a Fiverr. You're getting paid to just like quick one-off tasks, creating a post, doing a classroom visit, and somebody in the outreach task force will like plan and organize like all the information you need to do it. Luckily, we have something like this in our Teams right now. It's called Microsoft Planner. And I'd love to show you guys how it could work. If I can like get on there.
We don't anywhere, they don't anywhere anymore.
Okay, cool. Sorry guys, I was like more prepared for this, but then I kind of forgot what I was gonna say.
No, you're doing great.
Okay. So over here,
It's a little jank. To use.
I think it's already on the thing.
it is. Oh, it's right here. Just kidding, guys. Task by planner. Ta-da. So say, for example, you got your little, pretend there's a little outreach task force here. And I'm doing a new task. Let's do, yeah, table. Oh, does the keyboard know? Okay. Table at Red Square. And I create this task. And then I can add more information into it. And I can remember how I did that. You can put a date and you can, sorry guys, I'm really bad using this keyboard. Perfect. Okay, but I'm just gonna pretend. This is really stuck presentation, guys, but what you can do when you have like the full like range of options is you can set deadlines, you can put notes and like attachments. So then like someone on outreach task force can give you all the information that you need to be able to do it. And then you can, usually there's like a little like thing right here. I don't know why it's not on here, but it'll say like you can assign it to. So you can assign it to someone,
or you can assign yourself to it. And so that's like a cool way of like seeing like who's working on what. And so then when we do have our outreach task force meetings, it can be more of like a check-in to see like what everyone's working on, how's everyone's projects going, and brainstorming more ideas and plans. So that way we're kind of more consistently getting things done, and it isn't like we just come up with, like, we think about things and then they just like poof into the abyss. And yeah, and then it's really cool, because then once you're done, you can like check it off. I don't know why it's not working, but you can be like, oh wow, it's completed. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking, that's what we're thinking of. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
No, I think it's a cool idea. I think it's a great idea. Yeah, how should we go about communication for it? I guess.
Okay, so, these tasks will only appear, will only appear if you're like in the outreach task force teams. So if you're interested in like, I guess, think of it as like subscribing to getting like these like quest notifications, you can let me or MJ know, and we can just add you to the teams. And then, so anytime like someone puts up a new task, it will show up as like, oh, MJ added a task. And then you can go look at it's added and see like if it's, if it's something that you can do or want to do. Because yeah, a lot of us like on outreach task force, we have really big ideas about what we want to do. However, because like our schedules are really full, sometimes things don't get done right away because we're not able to personally do it. And so yeah, this is like just a nice way to collaborate and like have everyone's ideas just like be there and ready to like pick up and get started. Yeah.
Do you guys have your own Teams page, or is this a channel in the?
Yeah, we do have our own teams.
There's also a channel for OTF in the Senate teams, just something to keep in mind.
Okay. Yeah, we do have our own virtual teams. Yeah.
If folks wanted to be invited to this teams, should they message you or?
Yeah,
Okay.
let me know, let MJ know, let Lauren know, either any of us. Oh, yes.
I mean, do you expect, like, how often do you expect us all to look at this?
If like you like want to, it will, like, you don't have to, like, it's really like when you want to. Right, like the hope is that every senator that has extra time and wants to like do it will like go on it occasionally and like look to see if there's like something there, or just like wait for a notification. I know that coming up pretty soon, like I'm gonna start posting like classroom visits, because my hope is to visit some of the bigger lecture hall classes to like, I don't know, talk about student senate, and some of those classes I'm not able to personally attend. So that's probably gonna be like one of the first couple things that pop up is like, oh, there's a classroom visit at this time. And here's like the script, here's what time you need to be there. And then like, this is the day that it's gonna be on. And so then I think you just do it. And I like this because you can set like deadlines. So like, oh, okay, I need someone to sign up before this date. Yeah. Yeah. Did I answer your question? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm concerned, like, what if no one can make it, and then you've like scheduled to talk to a professor and worked out the hours?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I guess I haven't thought of that. I guess my hope is that maybe someone will be able to, but if not, I guess like, I feel like there's like the more like full-time members of OTF. And then there's like everyone who's like interested in just like
participating like here and then, like, well, here and now, no, like sometimes. And so hopefully like we'll still be able to get it done and it'll be a good way for like more permanent members of OTF to like organize our ideas and events.
Matt, you have a question.
Oh, not a question, just regarding canceling appearances, I'm involved with Mommy and I'm an officer. And I mean, we have been doing class visits and we cancel, then we can't find anyone, and it's not happening, so. Yeah, don't worry.
We can always we reschedule, you know, should bad. That's good.
I love the effort you put on your PowerPoint.
Yeah, our visuals are.
In the morning.
Yeah, that was a very engaging presentation. I was hooked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could show you guys a better tutorial of how this would look like, but I don't know, the buttons are not showing up as they usually do on my end, so I don't know, weird.
Yeah. But who's gonna be accountable for like monitoring the sheet and the work that's on there and reporting it to us? So that we make sure that everything that needs to get done on there is actually getting done.
I guess it kind of could be, I mean, it kind of seems like right now, like the MJ are taking on like kind of like that like leadership role. And so like we will at least be looking at it. But yeah, I'm hoping by the end of this meeting, Lauren's gonna send out a little survey that will ask like how involved you want to be in outreach task force. And so hopefully maybe we can ask the question of like, okay, do you want to be like a full-time member? Or it's like, okay, you might be more involved in like the planning and like organizing of like outreach activities? Or do you want to just be more of like a free agent? I don't know. Just like, yeah.
If I can give you a recommendation there, I would say that you guys should pick one person to monitor this and be the lead on it, so that we have someone to keep us all accountable for it. I think this is a really good system. Just need someone to look over it.
Yeah, I want to add, I kind of want to run by an idea I have brought up only to Daisy, but it's really relevant to the bylaws working group, is the idea of like a sort of outreach officer for the Senate, to like sort of formalize some sort of leadership in that, since I know that's something the Senate's been really involved in recently, and what I've seen is that like when students talk about student government, they talk about the Senate. Because we talk to the students, the executive board meets with like all the administrators and like has some high lunch or whatever. But like student senators are really like sort of the like outreach part, is like sort of how it's developed. And I think that like as a proposal is something that I would be excited about sort of trying out. To like sort of keep this work continuing, but I wanted to maybe hear you guys talk about that idea. And I mean, it relates to like what Devin's saying, like one person, like the, yeah. Lee.
I just agree with like what y'all are kind of getting at. I was thinking the same thing when I was listening to Lily. It's like, I think having like leadership is really important. Like just sort of putting out like, hey, like do this if you want. I think it's helpful to have someone there who's like scheduling meetings, you know, for everyone to get together and talk about what they're doing. Like someone who's kind of like monitoring stuff and sort of like more leadership role. So I just agree that I think really helpful for moving this along, you know.
I think maybe it could be nice for like one of our first like official meetings of the quarter to be establishing like, okay, who wants to do what? And so hopefully with this survey, that we'll send out, we can get a better idea of like who's in it, who wants to just like be in it, but like kind of on the side. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And on your suggestion, what would that look like For the leadership position.
I mean, yeah, I don't know, it's sort of just a passing thought, I think like leading, like that outreach task force would probably be like one of the main things. But also like sort of being the like go-to person for like, do we like post this on Instagram or not, or like sort of a lot of the communications things where right now it's like kind of weird, like people don't know whether or not they can like email the contract or like they need to email me first or something, like things just sort of like get that to like have someone doing that because the like Senate president role is already like so inundated and same with the vice chair role. So like it would be good to have the extra sort of like leadership. Is sort of my thought, but you can talk about it more in the bylaws where you have one, yeah.
That was just one last thing. I really appreciate that you did this because I wanted to be a part of the OTF and I think I was at capacity. So I kind of like that this is a good blend.
Any final thoughts before we move on? Okay, no final thoughts. We're gonna move on to the Senate budget request for fiscal year 25. That's document 5. So unfortunately, it sounds like we don't have hard numbers still. Adam is meeting with you finance people to get sort of hard numbers. Yeah, but this sort of just goes over the general, like what budgeting is probably gonna look like. AS Finance has asked for budget authority, so okay, let's explain a little bit about what terms mean. In the university, there are like funds, and within those, there are like specific budgets. The fund financial manager is Dr. Fred Collins. Right now, that's like the VU fund and like the AS fund. And then budget authorities are like the full-time staff people that have the authority to like approve or disapprove purchases in like a specific budget, like the student senate one, which is SSN. So yeah, so they ask Adam and every other budget authority to budget 48 hours of training for each staff person per year, reflecting each budget to reflect like accurate expenses, which is kind of just like that's what budgeting is. And then specifically for like student gov, adjusting the SGA positions. I honestly don't know what the differences are here, but one exec, one senate, one LAC SGA, or like lobby day SGA, and then 2 combined, sort of like we'll move around, is the idea. And then budgeting for the max allowable weekly per position, which is 10 hours per week per senator. And then budgeting for the actual number of weeks that there are in the quarter versus like, honestly don't know what you're doing before, like assuming that there's some number, I don't know. And then budgeting for like intercession work at 5 hours per week for 1 week during intercession or 5 hours over winter. Some administrative things right now, my salary comes out of the executive board, which is silly. And Nellie's also comes out of the executive board, I guess not salary, wage dollars. Yeah, and then adding 5 hours per week to this vice chair role to sort of like allow the vice chair to actually like take on some of the more tasks than is currently possible in that position. Yeah, are there any sort of like questions about this? I know it's kind of like new and complicated. Yeah, Lauren?
So 48 hours of training for the entire academic year.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if you would know this, but would the fall training be held different next year? Because I alone just have like 45 hours of training just for fall quarter.
Yeah, I mean, it could be different. I don't know exactly what they're saying. I don't know what it was last year. Leona, do you have more insight?
Yes, it will be different.
Okay.
Yeah, and also, so I wanted to add to Dave's explanation of this, which by the way, is amazing. Like, you did a really good job. I just want to let y'all know that like, when it says, oh, there's 48 hours budgeted or whatever, it means that we're gonna get a certain amount of money based on those numbers, but we don't have to use the money in any particular way. Like, for example, sorry, I'm gonna use a different example to illustrate this point. So like the third bullet point up from the bottom, we will budget for a limited number of hours during winter break for intersession work using the estimate of 5 hours of work per senator over intersession. I think the way that's written is misleading. Like the actual policy is not going to be, everybody can work 5 hours over intersession. That is not the policy. The budget is just saying like, we're gonna have this much money for that as if everyone did do that. But the way it'll actually look is different because not everyone will need to work 5 hours a week. Someone might need to work 10, someone else might want to work 0. And we have that kind of flexibility. But the actual language of the budget is that. Does that make sense? So, I just wanted to clarify that because I think it's a little bit misleading.
Yeah, go.
I mean, I just have more questions. I mean, going off about the training here, so the budget obviously is set aside to, right, provide that. And that's just like in case we have to use it, but we don't need to use it. Does that mean that it's just included in our budget and it's just there for other purposes as well? Or is it just reserved for that one task? And with that, in case we don't use it for that task, would that mean that it would cut off the following year because we didn't use the funding? Or how would you determine that?
So do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I'll answer that. So at the end of the year, any money that's like left in our budget ends up like sort of trickling down in our like reserve, like operating reserve, like equipment for like the cars, the computers and everything, and then like our grant funding. So it'll like go through like this waterfall of like, if we have extra money, it'll go through and like fill up our savings accounts. For, it's not the most accurate, but it's like, it's close enough. In terms of budgeting for every year, like every year, the budget will go through like budget authority, like the business office, finance council and the student government. So whether or not like things are cut, like really comes down to like the decisions that like the people make in the next year. So like last year, when we approved the budget for fiscal year 24, which is this year, like Josh cut a whole bunch because that's like what Eric was saying, like we need to cut a whole bunch of things, like at all the departments, mostly, a lot of offices were cutting things. And that it was because of like historical usage. So I think that's one is like, the historical usage is used like as like reasoning for making cuts, but I think it's like not necessarily, it's not like a hard and fast rule that like if we don't use the money that like it's gonna get cut. But it is also like if we aren't using the money, there's more reason to cut it. Does that answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Then there's another hands. Yeah.
If I can make a recommendation, and I am just, pushing the agenda. I think that there should be a dedicated SGA for the SEJF. Which is the Sustainability Equity Justice Fund grant. Just because we are dealing with student funds, every student on campus is paying into it, and we want to be as transparent as possible. And we've really struggled these past 2 quarters because we have not been assigned an SGA, or there have been difficulties in the scheduling. So I think that we should maybe prioritize that.
I'll ask you a question, because I know that the Sustainability Engagement Institute funds a few student positions, and I think you're in one of those. Is there not capacity within like using the SEJF fund itself to like fund, like an SBA?
I don't know. I think that because it's an AS committee, it kind of falls on them.
I think the appropriate avenue for that would be to set up a meeting and talk about it outside of the Senate meeting, because that's definitely something we can talk about, but I just don't think right now is necessarily like the right time, if that makes sense. But we can,
Yeah, no, I
Like,
think
we can, like,
that's good
talk
that we
about
like know that that's a concern now, and we can set up a meeting about that. Devin.
So just for clarification, and for transparency, SGA stands for Student Government Advisor.
Or no, student government assistance, yeah.
So, yeah, okay. And then what is the actual financial impact of all of these different requests? I see a lot of numbers, but I don't actually see a lot of money.
Yeah, so that's the part where like Adam is like keeping the numbers themselves very close to his chest at this moment. My sort of guess is that compared to last year, there will be an increase in our budget request. That's basically a certainty. What that impact will be, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like in the broader like AS, it does seem like our deficit is going to increase this year, like our structural deficit, that being the amount of expected income and the difference between that and our like at what we're budgeting. But like historically, we've had extra money basically every year except for during COVID. So it's like, I don't know, budgeting is like, what I'll say is like, it's kind of fake because there's so many different ways to do it. And it's all just like a prediction. So it's like you can predict in a whole bunch of different ways. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I see what you mean, yeah, and I just think that for proposals like these in the future, that we should have actual dollar amounts, because they are guesses. Yeah, they're our best guess, but I think that goes a long way in having all of us be informed when making these kinds of decisions. Because, I mean, student government advisors, that's, you can get a number on that. You can see like hourly.
We have that,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of like the appropriate time to share it, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, so the way it works is
yeah.
like, you know, the budget authorities are given an Excel sheet template essentially, and they basically plug it in, and then it's getting back to the finance people. So it's like, and we have, it's just a matter of like the appropriate time to share it.
Yeah.
And right now wouldn't be because it's not, the rough draft isn't done, right? So it'd be like showing y'all something and then being like, oh, but by the way, like, a lot of this is gonna change, you know, so it will be shared when it's the right time, if that makes sense. And this is like pretty much it. It's just minus the numbers, if that makes sense.
So, but what you're telling me is that you're giving me a rough draft for the numbers. And that would also apply to this proposal, right? And so I think that, like I said, going forward, I think it would be better that if the proposal is actually a rough draft, like you said,
Mhm.
to propose it only when the numbers are ready. Or if we do proposals like these again, that we bring numbers still,
Mhm.
but then come with a disclosure that these may change and this isn't the final proposal that we would like to move forward.
Cool, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Devin. I think sort of the budgeting process in the AS has always been like very like rushed and no one starts it until like December for some reason. And then people like, I don't know, it's just like, it's this strange budget timeline, and I'm not the biggest fan of it, but at the end of this month is when like the budget proposals or requests are due from the different offices. But that's all still subject to the finance council and to us eventually, at the end of the, or actually probably towards the middle of the spring quarter. And even that is then subject to like the SNAP committee and the board of trustees. And I guess at some point, probably Belinda, but Belinda has to be, that is, I don't know the exact process. There's a lot of moving parts, but yeah. I think this was sort of just to like share like what the budget is like going to look like. I know like last year, student government budgets, like there was nothing until like February, March. It was like really a mess. So this is less messy. I think it's just like the nature of student government and budgeting is like hard in comparison to a lot of other sort of like workplaces. In terms of like predictions, because it changes. It depends a lot on who's actually in the like seat. Any other questions on the budget proposal? No, okay. Then we'll move on to the AS budget timeline, which will explain, that's top 6, and should explain just like the broader context of things. Yeah, so this is, oh. Can you scroll in that document? And let's just look at the table. You guys can read up the whole thing if you want to, but the main things is the timelines and these dates is January 29th. That's when the proposals are supposed to be put in. And then it looks like the like VU fiscal people are gonna take a look for like accuracy and pull out their calculators or whatever they do. And then finance council is gonna be looking at them in the middle of February. And then the SNAP committee will start looking at them in like April. That would be sort of the beginning of spring quarter. Finance council would also be looking at them around the same time. And we would approve them probably towards the end of April. And then the SNAP committee would like approve them probably a little bit later than that. Then eventually they'll end up at the board of trustees for like with the whole budget. And that's sort of what we're looking at. I think there are some, I think an interesting part, like some of the assumptions on the next page. Like really a lot of this stuff is just like, oh, wages are increasing by collective bargaining agreements, by like legal requirements. Because like the minimum wage increases every year in Washington. And there's like other sort of increases. Inflation is a thing, like a lot of these are just gonna be like those kinds of increases. There will probably also be some like actual material changes in like what's being paid for or not paid for. We don't know those yet because not every budget's been proposed. Actually, none of them have, as far as I know. Yeah, and on the, I think the other important thing is putting on the third page, and that's the grant. Oh, one more page down. Past this one. Yeah, but I really wanted to share this so you guys could like read it yourselves. But so the grants that are ending are for 2 like staff positions, and that's a whole big ticket item that needs to be like folded into the operating budget, or we need to keep paying for it with grants. And I don't like paying for these positions with grants over and over again. That just that like takes most of the grants. It's like what ends up happening. So yeah, there's like some discussions that will be happening in finance council about those 2 positions probably, and seeing like what room there is. If you're interested in like last year's recommendation, you can reach out to me or look at the minutes from last year or the documents from last year. At the end of, it was like when our last meeting had the finance council recommendations for fiscal year 24. And it will have sort of the breakdown of different offices and different fund codes and like, yeah, and yeah, I mean, we're a university, we're doing knowledge work, it's all mostly wage dollars. So, yeah, any sort of questions about the timeline? I'm not trying to answer them, but I'll field them. Yeah, okay, cool. Then I think I'll probably bring back the like numbers about our proposal as soon as like they're ready from Adam. Just at our next meeting, or maybe the one after if it's delayed more. But yeah, just so we can all see that, understanding that that's sort of still pending the rest of the process. All right, then let's move on to action items for the Senate. The first one we have is the WWU Operational Student Employees Resolution. And this one, oh, that looks like the wrong version. Oh wait, no, never mind. I'm wrong. You're looking at the right one. There just weren't any different. Okay. Yeah, so I made a few changes. I think like I made some structural changes to make it read better. But the main thing that added is asking the university to support SB 5895, which is the Senate bill in the state legislature that would grant collective bargaining rights, or establish a like structure of collective bargaining for operational student employees, meaning anyone who's a student employee and not just a educational student employee. Yeah, I added some maybe spicier language at the end here that comes from West Barron's response to WWU, and that's on page 2 of 4. Yeah, so like, whereas Western asserts that it is, quote, unable to formally recognize or negotiate with any bargaining unit without an authorizing statute that provides a uniform structure as well as an orderly and clearly defined procedures for collective bargaining and dispute resolution. Regardless for, oh yeah, that Western is actually able to formally recognize and negotiate. There's not like there's no law against that. And then the next one is, that Western's concerns about like a uniform structure are addressed by the Senate Bill 5895. And that's why we've added the like support. And then, yeah, I guess I also added that like the ASWWU supports SB 5895, to sort of, yeah, have that. But I think like this is in a good spot. I know we had an OSC testify at the executive board. I forgot to get a OSC to like talk here, when we first introduced it. But yeah, it's like got the support of, ASWWU and the OSCs, that are organizing there. So I mean, yeah, I think it's in good shape. Are there any like questions about the resolution? Any thoughts in general? Yeah,
You said so 5895 is just a legal statute that allows or that allows for collective bargaining, or it.
yeah, so SB 5895 would like add a section to the like higher ed and sort of collective bargaining in the state. And what that would do is it like, it authorizes operational student employees, or what it actually authorizes is students or all employees who are enrolled in an academic program. And there's like, it's some other like more specific definition, but like what it is. So employees enrolled in an academic program, and that as long as they're not a part of other bargaining units, that will be in like an operational student employee unit, and that they can, like, you know, form a union, have like certify a union. That's, I don't know if that explains it. Yeah.
I was curious about, the importance that administration publicly support SB 5895.
Yeah, I think sort of that is there because like, I mean, like, I feel like testifying in front of, like a public hearing for SB 5895, like when it reaches Ways and Means,
Okay.
would be like a sort of an example of that. Right now, Western is like Nora, their lobbyist, administration's lobbyist, did like testify for 5895, but like sort of presented Western's like sort of objections or reservations about the bill in its current form. And proposed an amendment that to make it less clear. Like it kind of like, in my opinion, makes the wording like unclear and not rooted in like statutory framework that already exists. By creating like a just the term student employee is not actually defined anywhere. It's not like a thing, it's not a legal thing, like that's, we use it colloquially, but yeah, so just right now, we want them to support the bill and support it in like its current form, or like support it in its like same function. And so that's sort of what that support is about, or like that ask is.
Sure, and when are we expecting a response?
Yeah, I mean, so this is being voted on here in the Senate today, and the executive board tomorrow. And then it'll be sent out, hopefully, if I can get it sent out on Friday, I'll like send it as an email to the people that are CC'd at the bottom. Most likely, and it really depends on like how long it takes to respond. Hopefully they'll respond rather quickly. I know very recently, the WWU Foundation has responded to like student government about the fossil fuel divestment resolution. So I would expect like at most that sort of timeline, like I don't know, like what, a 2 month and a half timeline.
Okay.
I wouldn't expect anything larger than that. And I mean, I will see Marcy and bargaining on Mondays, so I can always bug Marcy and be like, are you guys gonna respond to this? Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions? And if there's no other, without a hand, why can you? Okay, yeah, then I welcome a motion to approve or agree to the OSC resolution.
I motion to approve.
And a second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right, then all those in favor of agreeing to the resolution, recognize and negotiate with ASWWU operational student employees with all the like edits that are listed in here. Please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions? No, okay, so that passes 11-0-0. Keep making noise, that's fine. All right, next action item. The ASWWU charter. This is document 8, and it may be a little bit hard to read in its track changes form, but I'll sort of go through this. I just realized I I know Kira took notes, the two guys, and I forgot to ask for them, so I'm just gonna go off the cuff here. So the change to the charter, sort of takes its focus from creating like a pseudo corporation that is the ASWWU to just mostly creating a student government. So that's the main thing. There's some changes in the preamble that are mostly like wording. I think that's about it. We added back, promote the general welfare of students. It was missing in administration's most recent proposal, but I think that was a mistake. I talked to Melinda on Monday, so we kept that in there. And then there's some like scope, like adding the words as appropriate. Who determines what's appropriate? I don't know, but it's not like, yeah, it's not really enforceable. I think it's like fine to sort of just describe these scope things. I don't think it's a big issue. The membership section has been changed to the ASWWU section. There's new language about Western recognizing the ASWWU as the sole recognized student association of Western Washington University, and that specific language is copied from the like state law. So there's like a meaning to that word, and that's why that's there. Changes to the voting membership are also significant, adding that you're only a voting member of ASWWU if you're at a WWU location where students pay some kind of service and activity fee. And that if you're a vote, you can only vote if you're voting for. This is a change that's like sort of putting on paper what's actually like been happening. People don't have access to WIN unless they like pay or get waived or in some other form. Basically, only people at the Bellingham campus have access to WIN, Western Involvement Network, and that's how we do elections. So people that have like campuses already were voting in elections. Yeah. The other thing to mention is that this would, I think, talking with Kira, it sounds like this would decrease the voting membership of the ASWWU from like 14 or 15,000 to like 11,000. I don't know, is that right, John? I don't
Yeah,
remember the
that's what she said.
Okay, yeah, and that would mean we would lose some votes in the Washington Student Association, but that means we'd also have to pay them less in membership dues. But there's also, the other thing to mention is Melinda Husky, the VP for Enrollment and Services, is interested in expanding sort of WIN access and like the ASWWU, like student government to other parts, other like campuses. Which means that if those campuses were incorporated, and started paying like a modest fee for WIN, they would be added back as large membership, and we would get more votes back. But also like that's a good thing, getting more students across these campuses involved in like sort of the shared governance of the university. Yeah. Also in this article, talks about how the whole ASWWU could be abolished. That would include all the programming services. Yeah, any questions on the ASWWU section of the charter? Yeah, Dennis.
Yeah, could you, so what was the point about the
WSA.
Oh, the WSA, sorry.
Yeah.
The WSA is the Washington Student Association. It's a nonprofit that's comprised of a bunch of, like, members and lobbyists from public, like, universities and colleges, and they help, like, they do lobbying, they help, the different, like, liaisons and lobbyists from the different student associations, like, with training and support, and they, yeah, I think that's like most of it, it's like mostly a lobbying organization that's sort of run largely by like member campuses.
Yeah, what was the changes regarding WSA?
Yeah, so right now we have like 9 votes in the WSA for voting on like the WSA, like, the agenda or like other things.
Yeah.
But if we approve this, change to our charter, it would mean that we would end up having less than 9 votes. We actually have the most votes out of any school because the UW is split into different campuses in terms of its voting population.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the change there. And then also the less votes you have, less members you have, the less you have to pay in dues. And then if you've been paying attention to the exec board minutes, there's a whole thing about WSA membership dues increasing and being like unreasonable or whatever. That's a whole thing that's like, honestly, I don't care a whole lot about it. But if you guys are interested in that, you can talk to like Kira or Aaron Godwin or Adam, and they all know a lot more than I do. Yeah. Any other questions on this section or article? Oh, there, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I know this is probably far-fetched, and there's probably a reasoning behind it, but I noticed how like the agreements and all that has been striked out. I mean, could there be any mention about just accountability, considering this is like an elected position and like, you know, it is our duty to serve, and like, you know,
Yeah,
is there
so
needs for that?
the reason that's not in the charter is that that's more of like a bylaws or constitution sort of thing. The scope of the charter is really about, the relationship between student government and the AS and the university. I think that's the main thing. It's like left pretty open so that students can sort of decide how they want to like structure their own student government.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's like no need to, like, I don't know, I feel like I don't know, I feel like there's importance in mentioning, like, you know, it is kind of like our task, like, something about like, you know, ensuring that it gets done or completed, I don't know.
Yeah, I think some of that might be like later on in the document. Yeah.
Yeah, so just, I think what might help us is, at least it'll help me, is giving us just like the broad general, goal of the charter. Like, what is it establishing in relation to what?
So I think the main thing that sort of like defines who's a member of the ASWWU, what the governing body of the ASWWU is, and then like what authority the student government has, and like what their also their duties. I think those are the main things about this charter. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Any other questions on that article or broad questions? Okay. Next article been changed from recognition to student government. This is very much like the section, the article just about it. But once again, it uses the language from the law about a student government association and governing body of a recognized student association. Those two things. And then it talks about how shared governance is sort of established because the president like is sort of recognizing us and like, yeah, that's kind of the whole thing. It's like, yeah, it's the like president is allowing us to like be part of the like formal shared governance. And then it adds some clarification about like with the consent of the ASWWU membership, because if the ASWWU membership doesn't want it, they can like abolish it or they can like vote different people in or, you know, yeah. And then registered by the board of trustees. The board of trustees doesn't vote on anything, they're just like, yeah, this is the thing. Sort of, in a like, yeah, like register sort of way. And then adding the like abolishment. So you can abolish the ASWWU or the student government is like the two things you could do. Yeah, and then all amendments, the amendment section has been moved from the very bottom to just the ASWWU student government section. And it's just saying that not the board of directors that approves it, or it's not the president and the board of directors that approve it, now it's the president and the student government, which is a very broad term. And which we can structure it however we want. Right now, that means student, senate, and executive board. Next section is, student government duties. This is pretty much the same, there's some like scope things. Yeah, these are all kind of, well, I think maybe there's maybe some clarification about like how the elections work, but it's not like anything massive or radical. And then also adding that like structures are gonna be reviewed at least every 5 years, which is like a good idea. Yeah. Any questions about those two articles? Yeah, okay. Then we'll move on to the granted authorities, and this is where the biggest changes are. It's been structured in a different way, so it now looks at like fees and administrative duties. What does the term administrative duties mean? I don't know. That's fine. Yeah, so fees, sort of just, we'll continue allocating the SNAP money that we're getting. That's the same. We're gonna provide recommendations for renewals or increases to mandatory or voluntary student fees. That's the same. Review information about spending student fee dollars. That's the same. Having mostly students on committees that affect, like use mandatory or voluntary student fees. That's the same. Like a lot of this stuff is the same. In the appointing a student chair, that's been clarified from like in consultation with the concurrence of the university president. The biggest change here is the removal of this sentence, the authority to allow the board of directors to make decisions and creating and overseeing a program of student activities and services. That change sort of is just to reflect the change from like a board of directors, like very much operational involvement from like a governing body of a quote unquote nonprofit to a sort of like oversight from like a budgetary and like strategic outlook. And yeah. The next section, administrative responsibilities, having information about the university, employing people. And then then the allocated funds part, there's been a new clause added about fiduciary responsibility, which was like already implied, but now it's explicit that like, we're not supposed to, mismanage student funds. Who would have thought? Yeah, and then with regards to the bookstore, we'll still get any excess revenue. They haven't had any in many years. But then we'll stop being involved in the development of policy, but we haven't been in a long time, so it doesn't really matter. And then, yeah, the agreements have been changed, so that I guess another thing, we no longer have our card that we are supposed to use the Viking Union as our main facility, but that's kind of implied by the like innate nature of the relationship between the AS and the VU. Yeah, that's the whole thing. I think it's in a good place. I don't think it like fundamentally changes a whole lot. I think it's just like a lot of it is like clarifying language. Are there any questions about the granted authorities or just the charter in general? I can also answer things about like timeline or implementation.
There you go. What would the timeline be?
What's the
Like,
timeline?
Soon.
So, yeah, so this is being voted on tonight and being voted on tomorrow in exec board. And if it's approved in the same form by us as the executive board and like Melinda, the president, then it'll end up going to the board of trustees it'll be like presented to the board of trustees on the meeting on the 9th. The 9th of February to be specific. And then there's going to be a signing ceremony, I think on the 1st of February. I don't know exactly the details about that. It's like sort of pomp and circumstance, whether I don't know exactly that. I'm not cared enough about that to like figure out logistics. Yeah. Other questions? No other questions. Wonderful. Then I would welcome a motion to approve the revisions to the AS charter.
The motions to approve the revisions to the charter.
Okay, any seconds?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? No further, no. No, okay, no further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Okay, all those opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions? No, okay, that passes 11-0-0. All right, then I think the rest of our agenda is done. I will skip over Senate reports since we have 3 minutes. Is there any other pressing business that anyone wants to bring up? Leona,
Hi, I changed the structure of the teams a little bit. The main difference is that rather than having channels for each college, there's a folder for each college. And it's titled like work senators, it's like senators work, and then if you click on it. Anyway, I think it's more intuitive now, but if you are running into any confusion or challenges, please just like send me a Teams message or an email and I can talk to you about it. And I'm taking suggestions. If you don't like the way the Teams is set up now, let me know. That's all I have.
all right. Fantastic. I don't have any other things to say. It doesn't sound like anyone else does either. So then I will adjourn this meeting of the Student Senate at 5:28 p.m.
So if you guys haven't seen yet, I posted a fun reel today.